You know that feeling when you wake up to a nightmare you didn't see coming, like your whole world's been turned upside down before your coffee's even brewed? That was me, Jake Harper, on a crisp September morning at my family's lakefront cabin in Willow Creek, staring out my window as Sarah Mitchell, the queen bee of our local HOA, marched 100 strangers onto my lawn like she owned the place. My great-granddad built this cabin with his bare hands after the war, a quiet slice of heaven by Crystal Lake, worth about $3 million now. But to me, it's the heart of the Harper family, every plank and stone soaked in memories until Sarah decided it was her personal playground. It started with a sound that wasn't my alarm clock, a harsh, grating snap of bolt cutters chewing through the lock on my front gate. I stumbled out of bed, still half asleep, and there she was, Sarah, clipboard in hand, directing two burly guys like some kind of general leading an invasion. Behind her, a swarm of people poured in, hauling folding tables, plastic chairs, and banners that screamed Willow Creek Community Fest. My lawn, the one I'd spent years keeping pristine, was being trampled into a fairground before my eyes. The air smelled like fresh grass mixed with barbecue smoke, and kids were already bouncing in an inflatable castle they'd plopped down by the lake. I stood there, frozen, watching my family's sanctuary get hijacked, while Sarah strutted around like she'd just claimed the deed. Now, Sarah wasn't just any HOA busybody, she was a retired property lawyer with a decade of courtroom wins under her belt, the kind of person who could make a parking violation feel like a federal offense. For 2 years, she'd been hounding me with petty citations. My mailbox was too rustic, my hedges too unkempt, but this was next level. She'd slapped a fake community use permit on my gate, complete with a wax seal that looked like it came from a medieval reenactment. Neighbors I'd known for years were nodding along, some even whispering I was selfish for keeping my big fancy cabin all to myself. Old Mrs. Jenkins from down the road actually said, loud enough for me to hear, "About time Jake shared that place with the rest of us." This wasn't just a party, it was a takeover, planned down to the last paper plate. My great-granddad picked this spot for its peace, its view of the lake sparkling under the stars, and my dad turned it into a cozy retreat where we'd fish and tell stories by the fire. To me, it wasn't just land, it was legacy. And here was Sarah, acting like she could rewrite my family's history with a forged document and a smug smile. I threw on a jacket, my heart pounding, and marched out to face her. "Sarah," I said, keeping my voice steady, though I was boiling inside, "this is private property. You need to clear out, now." She barely looked up from her clipboard, her smile sharp as a knife. "Jake, darling, I've got all the paperwork right here," she said, waving a thick envelope like it was a royal decree. "The HOA's got emergency powers, and it's high time this place served the community. Read the fine print before you make a scene." That envelope felt like a brick in my hands, stuffed with official-looking forms accusing me of everything from excessive privacy to landscaping that lowers property values. It was nonsense, but the kind of nonsense that could fool a cop or a judge if you didn't know better. As an engineer, I'd dealt with enough zoning boards to spot the cracks in her story, but Sarah's confidence was unnerving. She'd clearly done this before. Then I noticed the lock they'd cut off my gate wasn't just tossed aside. It was replaced with a shiny new one, the kind that costs a couple $100 and needs a special key. This wasn't a prunk, it was a calculated move to lock me out of my own property. I was about to lose it when my buddy Tom Reed pulled up in his beat-up truck, his face all business. Tom's a contractor who's saved my ass on property disputes before, and he'd been the one who convinced me to install security cameras a month earlier. He took one look at Sarah's permit, snorted, and said, "Jake, this registration number's fake as a $3 bill. It doesn't match the state's HOA filings. This is straight-up fraud." A few neighbors overheard, and I saw their faces shift, like they were starting to question Sarah's whole act. She didn't flinch, though. "Those are internal documents, Mr. Reed," she snapped, her voice dripping with condescension. "They don't need state approval. You'd know that if you understood HOA law." But her eyes betrayed her just a flicker of worry, like she knew Tom was onto something. Then things got weird. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "We've been watching Crystal Lake properties for months. Document everything. Backup plan at noon. Agent K." My stomach dropped. This wasn't just about my cabin, Anna Maria, it was part of something bigger. I glanced at Sarah, still barking orders, oblivious to the storm coming her way. And that's when I saw Emily Parker, a local college kid with a YouTube channel, filming the whole thing live. Her phone was on a tripod, her voice buzzing with excitement as she narrated to thousands of viewers. Guys, this HOA lady's taken over this guy's land, but something's super shady here. Her stream was blowing up, and when her camera caught a group by the lake passing around small baggy Smith, clear as day her chat went wild. Are they dealing drugs at a family picnic? She whispered, half laughing, half shocked. I texted Agent K back, drug deals happening now. It's on live stream. This is bigger than a property grab. The reply was instant. Perfect. Keep recording. Support's en route. Be ready at noon. I checked my watch 11:45. 15 minutes to go. My mind raced to the 30 lab mice in my basement, part of a stress study I was helping a local university with. They were harmless, bred for science, but I knew from experience that a few dozen rodents could turn a barbecue into a circus. Their cages had magnetic locks tied to the cabin's power grid, a little trick I'd rigged for safety. If I flipped the main breaker, those cages would pop open. It wasn't a plan, exactly, but it was a backup. At noon sharp, I was in the basement, hand on the breaker, the mice squeaking like they knew something was up. Here goes nothing, I muttered, and flipped the switch. The cabin went dark, the music outside cut off mid-song, and 30 very curious mice hit the ground running, chasing the smell of burgers and hot dogs. The first scream came fast, some lady yelling, "Mice! They're everywhere!" Chaos erupted, tables flipped, people bolted, some dove straight into Crystal Lake like it was safer than my lawn. Emily's stream caught it all, her voice cracking with laughter. Oh my gosh, mice just invaded this HOA party, and it's absolute madness. Her viewer count shot past 300,000 as clips spread like wildfire. Sarah tried to take charge, shouting, "Stay calm, it's just a glitch," but nobody was listening. In her panic, she backed too close to the dock, still yelling about community rights, and splashdown she went into the lake, coming up soaked, spitting water, her perfect hair a muddy mess. Emily zoomed in, giggling. The HOA queen just took a dive, and the internet's eating this up. Hashtags like Mouse Mutiny and HOA Fail were trending before Sarah even climbed out, dripping with lake scum and defeat. Then the sirens hit loud, relentless, like the whole county was converging. Police cars, DEA vans, an FBI sedan rolled in, lights flashing. Agent Karen Brooks, all business, marched up to Sarah, who was still coughing up lake water. "Sarah Mitchell, you're under arrest for conspiracy, trespassing, and facilitating drug trafficking," she said, snapping on the cuffs. Sarah's face went from fury to fear as the reality sank in. My old friend Detective Mike Larson, who I'd worked with on a city project years ago, pulled me aside. "Jake, we've been tracking Crystal Lake properties for months. Your cameras and that kid stream gave us the last piece we needed. This is bigger than you know." Turns out, Sarah wasn't just a power-hungry HOA tyrant. She was the front woman for a scheme to snatch up lakefront properties using fake violations and community pressure, all to sell them cheap to a shady developer. My cabin was the big prize, sitting on a geological jackpot worth over $8 million because of rare minerals nobody knew about except Sarah, who'd gotten her hands on secret surveys. The drugs? A bonus for her crew to fund the operation. They arrested 20 people that day, including 3 HOA cronies and a crooked deputy who'd been taking bribes to look the other way. 6 weeks later, I'm in court, testifying against Sarah. The place was packed, reporters, neighbors, even Emily, now a rising star journalist. The prosecution laid it out. Crystal Lake Properties had swindled millions across 3 counties, using Sarah's legal know-how to forge documents and bully homeowners. My testimony hit hard. "This cabin's my family's soul," I told the judge. "My great-granddad built it to heal after the war. Sarah didn't just invade my land, she tried to steal our history." When they played Emily's stream, showing Sarah's lake dive and the mice running wild, the courtroom couldn't hold back a few laughs. Sarah got 7 years, plus a $600,000 fine, and a lifetime ban from any HOA. Justice felt good, like a weight lifting off my chest. Now, my cabin's the Willow Creek Justice Hub, a place where folks learn about their rights and how to spot scams like Sarah's. The mice? They're local legends, living in a fancy habitat where visitors snap selfies. Emily's documentary on the whole mess won awards, and my book, Mice vs. Greed, is taught in college classes. I could have cashed out on those minerals, but I kept the land as my great-granddad wanted a quiet refuge by the lake, now shared with the community on my terms. Standing on that lawn, watching kids learn about property law where Sarah's picnic collapsed, I realized sometimes the smallest things like 30 mice can topple the biggest schemes. So what do you think? Was I right to unleash those mice, or did I go too far? Drop a comment, tell me your HOA horror stories, or just let me know where you're watching from. If this tale of backyard justice hit home, give it a like, share it with someone fighting their own battles, and subscribe to catch more stories where ordinary folks take on the system and win.